On September 23, 1780, a spy working for the British Crown was captured near Tarrytown, New York, secret plans hidden in his boot. Those plans would have handed the most important fortress on the Hudson to the Crown's forces, and the man behind them wasn't some unknown traitor. He was George Washington's most trusted general, the same man Washington once called the bravest of the brave. He had bled for the Continental cause. Now, he was selling it out. This is the story of how one of the Revolution's greatest heroes became its most hated name.
Benedict Arnold was born in 1741 in Norwich, Connecticut, to a once respected colonial family that fell apart around him. His father drank away the family's money and reputation. Several of his siblings died young from yellow fever. By the time Arnold was a teenager, the boy who should have inherited a comfortable life was instead scraping by, apprenticed out to relatives just to survive. He learned early that the world doesn't owe you anything, even when you think you've earned it. That lesson would follow him his entire life. He clawed his way back up. By his 20s, Arnold was a successful merchant and shipowner, trading goods across New England, Quebec, and the Caribbean. He built a name for himself in New Haven. He was respected. He was finally somebody. Then, in 1775, the shot heard round the world rang out at Lexington. And Benedict Arnold didn't hesitate. He volunteered immediately. Within weeks, Arnold proved he wasn't just a merchant playing soldier. He led the daring capture of Fort Ticonderoga alongside Ethan Allen's Green Mountain Boys, a fort packed with cannon the rebel cause desperately needed. It was a stunning early victory for an army that barely existed yet. Arnold had shown he could win, but this would become the pattern of his entire career. A brilliant victory, followed by someone else getting the credit. Later that year, Washington handed Arnold one of the most brutal assignments of the war: march over 1,000 men through the Maine wilderness to strike Quebec before winter fully set in. It was a nightmare. Men starved, men froze. Nearly a third of his force died or turned back before they even reached the enemy. On December 31st, 1775, in the middle of a blizzard, Arnold led the assault on a heavily fortified Quebec City. The attack failed. General Montgomery, the other commander, was killed. And Arnold took a musket ball straight through the leg. He didn't retreat. He had himself propped up against a rock and kept directing the battle, bleeding, refusing to leave his men. It was reckless, it was extraordinary, and it made him a legend. The mission failed to take Quebec, but Arnold's leadership under fire became the stuff soldiers told stories about around the campfire. In 1776, still recovering, Arnold did something almost nobody else in the Continental Army could have pulled off. He built a fleet from scratch on Lake Champlain, using green wood, untrained sailors, and almost no time, and threw it directly at the Crown's fleet at the Battle of Valcour Island. His tiny fleet was destroyed. On paper, it was a defeat, but the delay he forced bought the Continental cause an entire extra year to prepare. Historians would later call it one of the most important defeats in the Revolution. By 1777, Arnold was one of the most battle-tested officers in the entire Continental Army, and that's when the first real crack appeared. Not on the battlefield, but in Congress. 5 times, Congress promoted other, less experienced officers to Major General ahead of him. He was furious. He drafted his resignation. The only thing that stopped him was a direct personal request from George Washington himself, asking him to stay. Then came Saratoga, the battle that would define his legacy, and quietly poison it at the same time. In the fall of 1777, General Burgoyne's forces were bearing down through New York, and the Continental cause needed a miracle. During the first battle, Arnold's commanding officer, General Horatio Gates stripped him of field command after the two had a screaming argument over strategy. Arnold was humiliated, ordered to the sidelines of the most important battle of his career.
He stayed anyway. And on October 7th, during the second battle, with no official command and explicit orders to stay out of it, Arnold rode onto the battlefield anyway and personally led the charge that broke the enemy lines. Witnesses said he seemed almost possessed, riding straight into cannon fire, rallying men who'd already given up ground. The charge worked. It was the turning point of the entire battle.
And it cost him. A musket ball shattered the same leg he'd already wounded at Quebec. This time, surgeons wanted to amputate. Arnold refused. He'd rather keep a crippled leg than lose it, even though it left him 2 inches shorter on that side for the rest of his life.
Saratoga is still considered one of the most important victories of the Revolution, the win that convinced France to enter the war on the continental side. And the man whose reckless, disobedient charge arguably won it? General Gates barely mentioned him in his official report. Arnold got a restored military rank as a kind of olive branch. He didn't see it as an apology.
He saw it as proof that no matter what he did, no matter how much of his own blood he spilled for the cause, it would never be enough. By 1778, Arnold could barely walk. Washington, recognizing both his loyalty and his physical limitations, gave him a different kind of post: military commander of Philadelphia, recently abandoned by the Crown's forces. It should have been a reward. Instead, it became the beginning of the end.
Philadelphia was full of wealthy families with loyalist sympathies, and Arnold, proud, broke, and bitter, fell in with them. He lived far beyond his means, throwing himself into the city's social scene. And in 1779, he married Peggy Shippen, a young woman from a prominent loyalist family, just 19 years old, charming and politically connected to people who very much did not want the revolution to succeed. Arnold's lavish lifestyle and questionable business dealings drew the attention of Pennsylvania's government. He was accused of using his military position for personal profit. He was formally court-martialed. He was found guilty on minor charges and given a reprimand. A slap on the wrist, technically. But to Arnold, it was the final insult. The hero of Quebec, of Valcour Island, of Saratoga, reduced to standing trial like a common criminal, while career politicians who'd never fired a shot sat in judgment of him. This is the part of the story most people skip past. They want to jump straight to Traitor. But understanding Arnold means understanding this exact moment. A man who had given everything, who had the scars and the shattered leg to prove it, who genuinely believed he'd been betrayed by his own side, long before he ever betrayed it back. Within weeks of marrying Peggy, Arnold made first contact with the Crown's representatives. Using coded letters and invisible ink, he began secretly communicating with British intelligence through a young, ambitious officer named Major John Andre. At first, Arnold offered information, small things, troop movements. But by 1780, the offer had grown into something far bigger. Arnold maneuvered to get command of West Point, the fortress controlling the Hudson River, considered the single most strategically important position in the entire war. Whoever held West Point could cut the colonies in half. And Arnold asked Washington for it personally. Washington, who trusted him completely, gave it to him without a second thought. It was never about defending West Point. Arnold had already agreed, in secret, to hand it over. His price? £20,000 and a commission as a general in the Crown's army. He began weakening the fort's defenses, position by position, while reporting back to Washington that everything was secure. On September 21st, 1780,
Arnold met face-to-face with Major Andre near Stony Point to finalize the plans. Andre left with detailed maps and troop information hidden in his boot, planning to slip back to the Crown's lines. But on September 23rd, he was stopped by 3 Continental militiamen near Tarrytown. They searched him. They found the documents. And just like that, the entire plot unraveled.
An officer, not yet realizing what he held, sent word of Andre's capture up the chain. And that warning reached Arnold minutes before it reached Washington. Arnold bolted from the breakfast table, kissed his wife, and fled down to the Hudson, rowing out to a Crown warship waiting in the river. He escaped by minutes. When Washington arrived at Arnold's headquarters, expecting to see his trusted general, he found an empty house and a wife in hysterics, putting on a desperate performance to buy her husband time. Andre wasn't so lucky. He was tried as a spy and hanged on October 2nd, 1780. He was 29 years old, well-liked even by his captors, and many considered his death a tragedy, a soldier punished for another man's crime. Arnold, the man who'd actually planned the betrayal, was safe behind Crown lines, already negotiating his reward. Washington's words, when he learned the full scope of what happened, were simple. Treason of the blackest dye was yesterday discovered. Arnold received his commission, as promised, but he never got full respect from the men he'd switched sides to join. Officers who had fought against him for years now had to salute him, and many despised doing it. He'd betrayed the Continental cause for money and a title, and ended up trusted by no one on either side. He spent the rest of the war fighting against the army he once led. He led a raid that burned New London, Connecticut, his own home colony, leaving dozens of casualties. When the war ended in Continental victory, Arnold sailed for England, where he was never fully accepted into society there either. He spent his final years chasing business ventures in Canada and London that mostly failed, increasingly bitter, increasingly forgotten by the Crown he'd sacrificed everything for. Benedict Arnold died in 1801, almost 20 years after his betrayal, largely alone, his name already becoming shorthand for treachery itself. Today, you can visit Saratoga National Historical Park, where a monument honors the soldiers who turned the tide of the Revolution. There's a statue of a boot there, just a boot, commemorating the leg wound of the most brilliant soldier of the Continental Army. It doesn't say his name. At West Point, there's a plaque honoring every general who served. One of them lists only a rank and a birth year, no name. History erased him on purpose. Not because he wasn't talented, not because he wasn't brave, but because what he did afterward made all of that unforgivable. Here's the question that should actually stick with you. It's been said that if Benedict Arnold had died from his wounds at Saratoga, he would be remembered today as one of the Revolution's greatest heroes, right alongside Washington himself. Historians still debate which mattered more, the money or the years of feeling betrayed first. So what really turns a hero into a traitor? Was it greed? Was it the years of being passed over, disrespected, humiliated by the very cause he bled for? Or is the truth something more uncomfortable? That the line between hero and traitor was never as far apart as we like to believe? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you want more stories of the people history chose to forget or erase on purpose, subscribe, because this is just the beginning.
Video, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you very much.